Hey, what's up guys? Jakey here. Today we're going to be talking about aim and how to become a better aimer. So usually when people talk about aim and they think about aim, this is what they think of. They think of being able to react to something. So someone pops up right here and you're able to flick to him and kill him. So that's what people associate with aim. They'll be like, oh, what's your record on hard bots? How many hard bots can you kill in shooting range? And that muscle memory, that being able to flick onto a target precisely is only 50% of being a good aimer, and especially in Valorant. So the other 50% of being a good aimer comes down to crosshair placement, how you peek angles, and just the way you move in general. So let's start with crosshair placement, right? You can generally tell if someone's a good player just by looking at their crosshair placement. Like, have you ever played an unranked game and you just see literally someone walking around like this around the map? That's how you can tell. You can already tell they're a bad player or they're new to the game just by looking at where their crosshair is placed. So crosshair placement literally just means where your crosshair is placed on your screen. It's where your crosshair is placed. That's why it's called crosshair placement, right? And there's a difference between good and bad crosshair placement. Newer players will have bad crosshair placement where they aim like this at the ground. Good players will aim like this, head level. And the difference between these two is that, let's say there's a guy right here holding this angle, pretty common angle. If you're coming around the corner with bad crosshair placement and you're in this position right now, what do you have to do with your crosshair? Right? You have to flick up to shoot this guy's head. But if you're already peeking this angle with your crosshair aimed at head level, you're already ready to shoot this guy, just like that. So that's the difference between good crosshair placement and bad crosshair placement. And the reason you want to have good crosshair placement is just because it wins fights. If you're ready to shoot this guy in the head and you're already at this level, you don't have to flick up and you don't have to rely so much on your flick aim. You can literally just peek this angle and get ready to shoot. So that's a difference right there, first of all. Second thing that makes you a good aimer is being able to visualize and clear angles one by one. In real life, in the military, I think it's called like cutting the pie, right? Cutting the pie applies in Valorant too. And basically the general concept is if I'm peeking B right here, there's this whole area. There's 1, 2, 3, and for the sake of the argument, let's say this is an angle 2 that people play. 4 angles that you're peeking into. So if you're a new player, you might peek the angle like this, You literally might come up into the B main, peeking the angle like this, right? You might have solid crosshair placement, your head level all the time, but you're peeking it like this. This is already a mistake that you should not be making. So the problem with this is obviously you're exposing yourself to way too many angles and you're just going to die, right? You're not ready to react to any of these angles. It makes your life so much harder if you have to rely on your flick aim to kill one of these angles, right? A better way is to cut the pie. So if we're cutting the pie, we're peeking this angle first, this angle second, and then we peek these two angles. So that's what cutting the pie is right there, is when you're clearing something, you don't want to expose your whole body at once to multiple angles. You're aiming head level, you're peeking this first, okay, this is clear. Then you move on to the second angle, okay, this is clear. Then you move on to the third angle. So that's cutting the pie. This applies everywhere on the map. On every single map, there's areas where you need to cut the pie. Taking mid control, cut this right here. Next, cut this right here. And then next we cut mid vent door. And then we swing and we clear this. And then we cut this, A lot of new players, what they'll do is they'll just run out here. They'll just run out here looking for a fight. And what do? They die. The reason for that is just because they're running out and expecting to be able to flick onto a target and kill them immediately. But that's not how you should do it. If you're playing against players who actually know what they're doing and have aim and are aiming head level, you need to cut the pie to just increase your chances of winning the fight, right? Just take these fights one by one. Peek these angles one by one instead of exposing yourself to all of the angles at one time. So those are the two main things that make a good aimer, is crosshair placement, just making sure you're always aiming head level, and being able to cut the pie properly. So if you're having trouble with crosshair placement, right, I recommend going into an offline server like me and literally pretending like you're on the attacking side and aiming head level. So, for example, if I'm clearing this angle right here, I'm already aiming up here before I even swing. So I'm already pre-aiming this angle and then I swing, you know? I'm not, coming out or, what's a way to explain this? So I'm not coming out and then aiming up here. You know what I'm saying? I'm pre-aiming it and then I'm swinging out. So that's kind of the little things you have to keep in mind when if you're trying to improve your aim and just become a better player in general. These are the little things you have to keep in mind. If you're playing a match, you always want to ask yourself, am I aiming head level? What am I doing with my crosshair right now? And once you practice that enough, it just becomes second nature to you. You don't really even have to think about it because it's so natural for you to be aiming head level and to be peeking these angles one by one like this, and then like this, and cutting the pie. So, obviously instead of running out like this and you're swinging, you're cutting all of these angles one by one. So that's just a couple things to keep in mind, and also just remember that on slopes, the head level changes. So you kind of have to just visualize where people are gonna, like, what the player model will look like when they come out. So if you're holding this, obviously I'm not gonna be holding way up here because there's a slope here. I might hold down here because when they come down, their head level is gonna change according to the ramp. That's another thing I want to talk about. So one last topic before I end the video is visualization. One thing people struggle with, and one thing that helps a lot with being a better aimer, is being able to visualize your target. So, for example, this applies a lot when you're on defending side. Let me pick an angle here. Right here. So this is a nice off angle that I like to use sometimes. And when you're visualizing your target, a lot of people, when they hold an angle, they'll hold it like this. And the problem with holding angles like this is you're not going to have enough time to react, right? You're not a robot, basically, is what I'm trying to say. When someone is coming out B main, you're not going to be able to react to them coming out if you're holding the angle this tight. You're obviously going to have to flick over to shoot them. So what pro players do and what good players do is they hold the angle a little bit wide, like this. So it gives them time to react to the player. And there's less adjusting needed. All they need to do is just shoot. As soon as something comes out on their screen, they react and they shoot. And 90% of the time, if you're visualizing your target, this is a kill, and you don't have to adjust because you know the speed of their movement and your own reaction time. So instead of holding it like this and pretending that you're a robot, hold it naturally, a little bit wide, so that when they swing out, you don't even have to aim at them. Their head literally just moves into your crosshair, and all you have to do is click. So yeah, that's one thing to consider, is just visualization and being able to visualize your targets running out. What will a scenario look like, etc., etc. So that's pretty much it, guys. That was pretty much the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it helped you out. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.